Hello everyone, this is my 7-round NFL mock draft for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers using PFF Simulator. One quick thing before we begin, I'm really new here to YouTube. I just started putting up videos a couple of days ago. Any advice or comments or any help that you can give me, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you in advance. Now moving to the draft here. What I wanted to come away with from this draft for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was right tackle is really, really important. There's really like zero depth for the Buccaneers right now at that position, so I wanted to come away with that specific position. And then also safety, I feel, is one of the few holes that remain with the Tampa Bay roster. Additionally, maybe a third wide receiver would be really helpful. So that's kind of the mindset that I had when attacking this draft. Okay, let's jump right in. At selection 14, I took Josh Jones, tackle, Houston University, and I really, really like him as a prospect. I think he's one of the best pass protectors in this draft. He might not have the same name and the same athletic testing that someone like Tristan Wirfs had, but all Josh Jones does is block his guy over and over again. He's extremely consistent, and his technique is really, really good. And that makes me really confident in his ability to transition to the NFL level and the NFL competition that he's going to be facing. Because at the University of Houston, he didn't always face the greatest of pass rushers, so that's kind of the knock on him, or I guess the biggest concern with him is that because he played in a non-Power 5 conference at the University of Houston, he didn't always see a great caliber of pass rusher, so that's a bit of an unknown, or that's where some uncertainty comes in. But everyone that he did face, he consistently blocked them, and he has really amazing technique, so I feel confident in that player. Now, the other small issue as well with fit specifically is that Josh Jones is a left tackle. Tampa Bay needs a right tackle. The other two really amazing right tackle prospects, Jedrick Wills and then Tristan Wirfs, they were both off the board, and he was the last he was the last tackle available that had the same ability, or that I would consider in the same tier as those other players. So I took him, even though he's a left tackle. I think he can play right tackle perfectly fine. And then also maybe if Donovan Smith, if he doesn't do very well, maybe Josh Jones can play left tackle and they can switch, although you don't want to be switching around all that much. But anyway, taking a great tackle prospect like Josh Jones at 14, I don't think you can really go wrong with that. Moving on to selection 45, it's Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver, USC. He's another guy that I'm really high on, and getting him at 45 overall is amazing value, I think. This guy, what he does well is he never drops balls. He gets open in the intermediate areas of the field, sort of a la Michael Thomas-esque. He even has a bit of deep speed to his game as well. He's good at contested catches. He does a lot of things quite well. The little bit of lacking thing with him is that he's 23 years old already, and then also he's not the greatest of deep threats, but he can certainly threaten certain cornerbacks. It's just the super speedy ones he's not going to stack, and he's not going to get down the field and beat them consistently. But overall, he adds a really nice weapon for Tampa Bay, because Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, they've had really good health. They're amazing wide receivers, but getting that third option just on the off chance that there could be injuries or whatever. And then also, as we saw with Kansas City this year, they had three excellent threats, and going from having two amazing offensive weapons, wide receiver, receiving threats, to that third one that really adds so much burden to the defense to try and cover all three of those players. They can manage two players well enough, but when you add that third player that they have to really account for, that's an above average player, it makes it so difficult for the defensive coordinator and the opposing defense to contain all three of those guys on every single play. So I think this is a really good selection for Tampa Bay. Moving on to 53, it's Ashton Davis, safety, University of California. I really needed to come away from this draft with a safety prospect and not someone in the later rounds that really isn't going to challenge the starters there right now. I think Ashton Davis was the best prospect at 53 to be able to do that. What he does well is he's a center fielder type. He can really cover the back end of the field and really prevent deep passes. So I think he brings a nice element to that defense, where the secondary really improved over the second half of last year. The cornerbacks, Jamal Dean and Carlton Davis, the two former Auburn players, they really played well. Sean Bunting is in that mix as well. All of them, they really solidified and did an excellent job in coverage, but the area where they could improve is at safety. Ashton Davis, he's going to do really well in covering that center field, the center of the of the football field, and then also prevent deep passes, and that's something that's going to be tremendously valuable for Tampa Bay. Moving on to the last three selections, I want to just talk about them kind of as a group. I took a defensive tackle, Leki Fotu, University of Utah, Antonio Gibson, running back, Memphis University, and then Trey Adams, tackle, University of Washington. Here, I wanted another lineman because there is really like zero depth at the right tackle position right now for Tampa Bay. So I went with Trey Adams. He's gonna be a player who can be like a second or third stringer and add depth, cheap depth that they need. Antonio Gibson is a helpful running back, and I think what he does well and will help Tom Brady is that he can go out of the backfield. He can catch passes really well, and that's something that Tom Brady likes to do. He's been kind of known a lot for not kind of dumping off the ball, but for short, quick routes. And Antonio Gibson, he can do that and bring an element that Tampa Bay doesn't have right now amongst that running back group. And then finally, Leki Fotu. The only reason why I took him there was I didn't see another player that I liked at all, and I think Leki Fotu, he's like a top 120 guy. He's solid value for that position in the draft, and there was no other player there that I felt really very good about. And Fotu, I felt just slightly a little better about him than the other prospects, so that's why I took him. Defensive tackle is not a great positional value, and it's not a super great need for Tampa Bay, but you can never go wrong, I feel, when taking kind of the best player at that point in the draft that's available, that you feel a little more confident in than the other options there. Okay, let's wrap this up. I did one trade, and I moved up from 76 to 53, so about 20 spots in the draft, a little more than that, and all I had to do was give up the 161st pick. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of doing this all the time, but I really felt a need to get the best safety prospect that was available, and Ashton Davis after him. There was no other safety that I wanted to take within like the next 50 picks or somewhere in that range. So I decided to move up over 20 spots and go get him because, like I've mentioned before, safety is the one place in that Tampa Bay secondary that does need some improvement. So I went up and got Davis. Okay. Well, thank you very much. If you've made it all the way through, I really appreciate it. And hopefully you have a great day. And bye.